Today's video has kindly been sponsored by myself and my own webshop hsMVY.shop. If you're looking for supplies for the scale model builder, specifically the car modeler, I have tons of detail parts from various brands. I've also just started adding a lot of paints from Tamiya in the XF range, and I have various other kits in stock, and I have also restocked a lot of kits from Tamiya and Aoshima, so please go check out my webshop hsMVY.shop and help support the channel. After finishing off the exterior paint work in episode 1, it is now time to move on to the interior. Now, the interior on the Revell kit is mostly correct as far as I've seen on a lot of reference material. Most of the interior is pretty stock. It has a couple of extra gauges and some sort of button panels on the dashboard, so some of those buttons that are on the standard dashboard need to be deleted. I then made a small masking template to make a plate out of some styrene sheet to make it nice and flat for the decal to then go on top of. If you just follow the instructions from the Revell kit, it states that you need to put the decal on top of the standard dashboard, but that would have some mismatched shapes with some mismatched decal patterns, so I just like to have it as a flat piece, same as on the real cars. Now, for some strange reason, I found some reference material of the rear speaker setup online, and then adjusted all of the parts to make them fit in a different way than they are in the kit. And after finishing the interior off, I was no longer able to find that reference material, so I have no real clue what is correct and what isn't. But overall, in general, the dashboard looks pretty correct. With that said and done, all of the modifications are completed. I took out a nFOUW airbrush, started priming all of the parts, and then moved on to applying some colors, which are pretty much all black. No real details on the interior. Everything seems to be made out of black plastic or black vinyl or soft touch plastic stuff. It is pretty much all black, apart from the seats. Those center sections are black, and then the side bolsters and the rear seat, or the rear part of that seat, is in a light gray, so I just used some primer gray. I let the primer cure for a bit and then moved on to unmasking and adding some additional details with some black paints and a small brush, as it was simply easier to paint these by hand than it would have been to mask all of these complicated shapes off in order to have them painted black. A small touch of silver was added to the gear shifter knob, and I could then move on to applying some decals. The decals that are included in the kit from Revell come for some of these speakers as well. Now, there is a center section included which is black and has a small logo, but that does not match at all with the size of the inside of the speaker, so I simply just cut out all of those center sections and only used the outer sections for a cleaner look, with some of the silver and some of the nuts and bolts added in there as well, which was a lot nicer than if I would have done it with a brush. So I thought this was quite nifty to do, and it fit up really well and looked really good in the end, but you'll see that a bit later. I also added some aftermarket seatbelts from Scale Production, as the decals in the kit simply don't cut it, and this makes it look a lot nicer. Now, for the seatbelt decals, I simply used the ones from the decal set that comes in the kit without the seatbelt part of it. I then apply some decal softening solution underneath the decals onto the seat belts, and then soak the decals themselves as well, and just keep doing that until it conforms to the decal, and once it's dry, just simply never touch it again and hope it stays in place. All of the detailing has now been completed, so some assembly could take place as well, and everything was simply just glued together with some Bob Smith Industries Super Gold Plus. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the interior. I did decide to add the famous NOS model on the rear section. However, I have no idea if this is actually accurate or not. As far as I could find, really only some reference material for the dashboard and the seats, and the rest of the interior is a pretty big mystery to me. Now maybe I've been looking in the wrong place. I couldn't really find it in the movie scene either. So if you do have some other material, do share it for others who want to build their own version and might need it there. In general, I'm pretty happy, and the front section of the interior is pretty cool, and I think it suits the build and fits in with the styling.